Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 50 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast in all of the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
And my name is Mike Cavanagh.
Hey, special guest Mike Cavanagh on the show tonight. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well.
Oh, yeah, very good. This is your first time on the show.
Yes,
Welcome.
yes, it is. I am excited to talk all things Switch. Definitely not my first Nintendo console in 20 years.
Very good. Well, that's part of the conversation. We got a great show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about a number of topics, but our main topic for tonight is going to be talking about Nintendo Directs in general. We're waiting for a Nintendo Direct right now. A lot of us thought it was going to happen here in January, but we're going to be talking kind of about the format and the way that Nintendo disseminates information to potential consumers, Nintendo fans, all that kind of stuff. Kind of a brief history of the way that Nintendo has driven the hype train around. We got some other interesting news topics we'll be talking about, including some games that are very close to Matt's heart. Some new Witcher game that kind of dropped out of nowhere. Some Nintendo court cases. You know we love talking about the legal system on this podcast. And so much more. How are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
Good. We were talking about cats earlier.
Yeah.
There's like a
Oh my
vulture.
gosh.
Sorry. There's a vulture article about cats and how it had a second wind
Oh, yeah.
because people would go see it really high.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a good article, too. It's well written.
It's
and
really
very
good.
entertaining.
Yeah. Patrick is looking at us right now. And he
I got
hates
no
cats.
problem with it. Cats.
Cats, you just need to see Cats, and then we'll change
Is it
this to
still
Super
in the
Cats Heads.
theaters
Yeah.
with the second one?
Yeah, it is, actually. They're still doing rowdy
Is it
screenings.
worth paying for?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Like
These two love it.
I saw on Facebook. It was a clear love.
Today was also a pretty fun day, like, in the Switch Heads group.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We, like, kind of became, like, an unofficial
Kind of went
Dreamcast
nuts.
page
Yeah.
for a while.
I was
and-
like, was there an announcement? What happened? I'm busy at work. And just
I was like, wait, the Dreamcast turned 20 like last year.
yeah,
And
$9,999.
that whole Fred Durst.
I think it was just corduroy. Like, Cody.
That Fred Durst thing happened like a few years ago.
Yeah, Cody
and
posted something, and then we all just started posting Dreamcast stuff. And then people started posting the Atari Hotel link over and over and over again, much to my disdain as the admin of the group.
You literally said dupe, but I love how it looks, so I'll keep it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not in the news for this week, but Atari is opening, some sort of company that owns the rights to Atari is
Right.
opening a hotel in Austin.
Yeah, they're supposed to be building one in Phoenix in 2020, and then it will be coming to Austin at some point next year.
But why?
We could talk about that for a whole topic sometime.
Can I just want to know, have you guys heard of the speaker hat? The Atari speaker hat?
Oh yeah, I've seen
Okay,
those.
just want to make sure. Apparently,
They're
is
trying
all-
different ventures.
sure.
Yeah, but let's go ahead and get into the news.
Yeah,
why don't
and
we?
before we do that, though, we do want to, if you're out there listening, give us a 5-star review. Why not?
yeah.
On Apple Podcasts or share the podcast somewhere, like on Reddit or tell a friend or what have you.
If you're listening on YouTube, we see you, the five of you. Like
like
and
it,
subscribe.
Yeah. Hit up those comments.
if you're a fan of the podcast, show it.
Yes. God damn. Patrick is so pissed right now.
This is us begging for your vote.
He's tearing his shirt off.
All right, now we can do the news.
All right, moving on to news.
But I have a little preface to the news this week. I have built the news around our friend here, Matthew.
That's me.
We're opening with some news that you're going to hate, and we're closing with some news you'll like. I think.
I've read the notes. But I appreciate the exposition.
Okay, so I was thinking about
That
you.
was just for the listeners.
So everybody's favorite game, Little Town Hero, is not just going to be on the Switch. It's going to PlayStation 4. So that's interesting. A Game Freak game on PlayStation. And this is all in Japan, by the way. So
Yeah.
I don't know that any of this will actually come to America. And as well, they're like having this sort of limited edition, special edition you can buy of the game, which has got like a soundtrack and like art and all kinds of extras.
I think that it would come to America for the PS4 because Matt owns a PS4 and he's the only guy who bought the game, so they know that like the customer is here.
And there's like a
All they need is
physical, I guess physical versions, just regular ones too.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
if you want to get your
It's
collectors,
even more expensive as a physical copy of that bullshit.
I'm upset for multiple reasons. But number one is, Patrick, you put this on the notes like this past weekend and did not tell me there's a collector's
I was
edition.
kind of hoping I might be able to shock you with this news.
Well, yeah, I found it today.
I should have not put it on the notes.
And I'm hurt that no one shared this good news.
Yeah. We wanted to surprise you, bud.
Man. My favorite part of the collector's edition for Little Town Hero is that they have a soundtrack, and the soundtrack just called Town Tunes.
It's my favorite Spotify created playlist.
Town Tunes.
Town Tunes.
Yeah, you can go on my SoundCloud and find game rips that I did with my cell phone of the game playing on the TV. If you want to listen to the tunes.
Also, in upsetting Matt news, there have been more Switch Pro rumors, and we're going to talk about
Oh,
it, at least briefly.
Yeah, there's not like too much to talk about.
I think the thing that came out in the past week is whoever this is this is kind of a very sketchy rumor going around that the GPU is going to be based on Volta architecture, and that Nintendo is working with NVIDIA to make some custom processors and stuff like that. So we'll see if any of this is true. Obviously, we've said that every time, but just had to say it for your sake, Matt.
Okay, I will add something to
yes,
conversation.
yes,
Are you
good.
ready for this?
Yes.
Then part of that rumor is what the GPU will be, and the output might not be 4K.
I don't expect it to be 4K.
Yeah.
That's they did a 720 screen on that. Like,
Yeah.
4K is just, my opinion is doing 4K on that means it's more expensive, and that's not what Nintendo's going for. They want to cut price and make it family friendly.
Yeah,
if
that's a
you
pretty
even
good
on a
idea.
Pro, like something like that, like the iPad Pro, like Nintendo is not going. I feel like they would not go for something that's too expensive. They have a really good market. They have a Switch Lite. Like, I think the Pro would be people upgrading from Switch 1.
Right. I could definitely see them doing like a 350 for a Switch Pro.
Yeah,
but
I
I
could
don't
see
see
that,
them
definitely.
going. I agree. I think if they did a 4K system, they would have to sell it for like $400, and they don't want to do that. And I just don't think that they care. And I don't think that people that like have Switches want them to be 4K necessarily. I don't hear a lot of people like clamoring for the Switch to like be able to upscale to 4K or whatever, because the games wouldn't be rendering at 4K because
No.
it's still an underpowered system. But anyway, I think that there's like a shit ton of smoke with these Switch Pro things. Like, I think it's telling that there's like new news to talk about every single week with the Switch Pro rumors. So I think that there's definitely fire there somewhere.
I believe that, definitely. Oh, yeah.
A couple eShop news updates for y'all. Ukulele and the Impossible Lair has a demo available
Yes.
now. I have not played this. I know, David, you have.
Yeah, I love this game.
I love platformers, so now that there's a demo, I will likely give that a shot at some point.
Yeah, and it's a pretty robust demo too. I think they show like lots of different parts of the game, and I think your data transfers over as well, kind of like with those RPGs.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
This is the ukulele that is like the Donkey Kong Country, correct?
Yeah, it's a side-scrolling
Ooh,
platformer.
Okay, that's what I wanted from them.
Yeah,
as old
it's-
rare folk.
It's really, really fun.
Yeah, I will definitely download that demo when I get home.
And Thronebreaker: The Witcher Tales, which is as I understand it, it's like CD Projekt Red. It's like a Gwent based card type game with some
Kind
RPG
of.
elements
Yeah.
to it. Just kind of shadow dropped on the eShop Tuesday today.
Wait, it's
the
out?
28th.
Yeah,
It's
I just
out.
saw a trailer.
today.
Oh shit!
You can get it.
Toss a coin to your CD Projekt Red.
Toss $20 with tax
With
to
tax.
CD Projekt Red.
I
Toss
don't
a
know.
couple of coins.
So if that appeals to you, that's available. And then also Killer Queen Black got a update, a patch, which we've talked about a deficiency in this game before where you couldn't play 8 players local. Now you can.
Yeah,
And-
that's the biggest problem that I had with the game, is that you couldn't have 7 of your friends over to play that game.
And the game's on sale as well.
That's
for-
8 players on one Switch.
That's correct. Yeah, so that would
Hell
be
yeah.
four people on each team, all on the same TV and all on the same system. I played some Killer Queen Black on Sunday over at Tommy's. He had a Royal Rumble party.
Oh, yeah.
And we took breaks by playing Killer Queen Black, and it was a ton of fun.
That sounds great.
Yeah, yeah.
Fucking amazing.
50% off, $10 right now. I think I'm trying to find this. I can't find it. I think it's through February 2nd.
Yeah, I think it's into February. Either way, you've got time. If you're listening to this podcast, stop whatever you're doing, pull over, pull up to eShop, buy Killer Queen Black right now. It's so much fun. I want to play with all you guys online.
We'll wait.
Next up, we got a couple of lawsuit updates. There was a lawsuit going on in Europe where I believe it was the countries of like Norway and Germany had filed like a complaint, and it went through whatever legal process they have over in the European Union about like digital pre-orders. So like, you know, when you pre-order a game, I guess in particular first-party games on the Switch digitally, they download to your Switch. As soon as you do that,
that's right. They preload.
You theoretically have them already, and I'm doing air quotes because you can't really access them, and that's their way around this European law that like requires there to be, you know, the potential for refunds if you want to cancel that.
Which
so you can't cancel a digital pre-order on a Switch.
That's bullshit for several reasons. I definitely disagree with this ruling. I feel like the judge didn't really understand like what was kind of the intricacies of how the pre-order process works with Nintendo. But it's bullshit because like you said, you don't own the game yet. You haven't played it yet. If you want to send it back, you should be able to download something that then nulls out the software. You know what I mean? It's like, or have a lock mechanism that where if you like give it back, you can't access the data, even if you have it on there. So that's reason one. Reason two is like Steam lets you play a game for like up to like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, I think it's 2
you can buy a
hours.
game for zero reason. If you don't like it, you can return it. And so it's not like every single other retailer does it this way. And so there's precedent for it. You know what I mean? I think it's really unfortunate that they didn't win this, that these countries didn't win this case, because I think that's only going to set a bigger precedent going forward, especially with consoles.
Yeah, Nintendo is following the letter of the law, not the spirit of it, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And I think what we as Nintendo consumers just need to remember is if there's any doubt in your mind, don't digitally pre-order a game. Like you're buying the game 100% if you do that. Just keep that in mind, right? Like that game is yours. There's no backsies.
Yeah, do your research. Listen to an episode of Super Switch Headz. Exactly. We'll tell you what to buy. Yeah, you don't got to make your own decisions.
We got your back.
Yeah, follow what we say, sheep.
So in more sort of political news, or
this fucking
there was
Trump.
a New York Times interview with Joe Biden.
Oh yeah.
Where he was telling a story about meeting with some people in San Francisco and referred to a specific game developer as like a creep or a little creep, and talked about how they made games that teach you to kill. And this is sort of an off the cuff comment. So like I saw some news articles that was like, he calls video game developers creeps. Well, there's some like over exaggeration going on, but I don't want to detract from the fact that what he said is also stupid and like shows the lack of understanding about video games.
It's the most okay boomer thing I've heard in a while.
Yeah. Joe Biden sucks. He's like Joe Biden's like from the era of, he's like from the Joe Lieberman era of like of politicians and like but I don't know. This definitely just only became a topic because it's like on the campaign trail and people are looking for any reason to badmouth these people.
Yeah,
I think if like he had said this just like any other time, like nobody would give a shit.
Oh,
they just be like, it's just some old guy talking.
Yeah, if he was like, just an old guy talking, then I wouldn't care either.
Not a man who could win the Democratic nomination.
And
very realistically.
is poised to,
yeah. But yeah, I think it was like one of the executives from EA as well that he was talking about.
Oh, never mind. He's completely right.
But it was something, it was like several years ago. It was like they weren't even like really making, it wasn't even somebody who makes particularly violent games. That's why that was kind of a really stupid comment.
Yeah, it's just,
he's just out of touch.
Exactly. I think that's what it shows. But somebody who
Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders was like, I play Fortnite every night. I love kids.
I love Byleth.
Byleth, I think, is a great pick for Smash.
So
I'm talking to Austin from the Super Switch Headz community. You're the only person who loves Byleth.
Bernie is a regular poster on the Switch Headz Facebook group. I really recommend you guys.
His love of Undertale is something that means a lot to me.
I just love Sans.
So
sorry, you can continue.
It's fine. somebody who can speak eloquently about video games is Reggie Fils-Aimé,
Very good.
former president of Nintendo of America. And he was on a podcast called Present Value Podcast, where he talked a little bit about Nintendo and his time there. And one little nugget he dropped out that everybody's been talking about is pretty interesting. So he talked about when he first got there, Nintendo of America in particular was kind of ashamed almost. There's this feeling of shame of like the fact that Nintendo was appealing to young consumers and they really wanted to age up like the logo in particular in their advertising, and we're trying to do things like have it graffiti and tribal tattoos and stuff like that.
Oh God.
And so he really put a stop to that and kind of kept like, we need to stick with the plain logo and what our brand is. And I thought that was
some
really
like early 2000s fad. Yeah.
I think that was really interesting. I also think Reggie is just like got all these really great stories and he's just doling them out one at a time.
Yeah.
At all of these things he can do, which is really smart.
My question is, who the fuck is the Present Value Podcast, and why the fuck hasn't Reggie been returning my calls? That's my question.
We drink Malort.
We drink Malort for you, Reggie.
We're here.
I'm a soldier with boots on the ground for Reggie.
We all held it up at the same time.
Reggie,
For an awkwardly long time.
our body is ready, Reggie.
Yeah. And our podcast.
Yes.
I don't know about you all, but like branding is really cool for me to like think about and like talk about, because like Nintendo's had the same logo for a really long time.
That's true.
And sometimes you can't say that about like all companies. They rebrand to have more people, like Time Warner to Spectrum. They rebrand because Time Warner was shit. And so they rebrand so the consumers forget that Spectrum is a Time Warner company.
Right.
But like Nintendo has a consistent base, a consistent fan base, and consistent business ethics of the art that they create.
Yeah,
and I think that
consistent
goes a long way.
vision of what they're trying to do too.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to think of like what are some other brands that have never rebranded like their logos. And the only one I can really think of right now is like McDonald's.
Nike? Have they always had the Switch?
I guess Nike's probably had the Switch for a long time.
And PlayStation is kind of
they had like the Spider-Man font for a while. Like PlayStation 3.
Excuse me, that's the PlayStation font.
But either way, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, they've stuck around with it, but it shows the lasting power, like you were saying, Matt, like of a brand like that, like, and it shows like a huge amount of consumer trust.
Yeah. I was just like, imagining what the Nintendo would look like. And it would just be like this angle graffiti Nintendo that's like spray painted on a brick wall.
Yeah. I think of like the Neversoft logo or something that.
Yeah.
Like the early, like the grungy, hardcore, like early 2000s.
It's like
late 90s thing.
The eyeball in Neversoft gets punctured by like a
Yeah,
spear.
there's paint dripping off of
Yeah.
it.
The O is just Mario's head being stuck with a spike or something.
That would be, I don't know if Reggie would. He'd like, what if they came to Reggie's desk with that and he's like, that's too much.
Should be Waluigi.
Nintendo heard Joe Biden's review. They went the full other way, go total violence.
Moving on. We finally got information about Pokemon Home that was announced, and the Pokemon Home website is live. You can go read about it. But I think we were kind of right on the money that they didn't want to announce it because it's a little bit more expensive than maybe people want to pay for. It's $16 a year.
Okay.
So there is a free version, but the free version is very limited. And there is I think a first free month. So you can test it out and maybe move all your Pokemon in the first month. But for people that are real serious about that, they're going to be paying the $16 a year. And I think that's probably why they didn't announce that when they also announced $30 DLC.
Yeah.
There was no direct for this, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
It was slipped out there today with a press release.
Yep.
Which are they discontinuing Bank? Or are they going to be going simultaneously?
They have a confusing infographic that says Bank integrates into Home. I looked at it for a minute and I was like, I don't understand.
Well, right. Well, I know it works with Bank.
Yeah.
But my question is is that only going to be, are they going to kill Bank off after a couple months after everybody puts it on there? Or are you going to have to continue to pay $5 a year for Bank and then $16 a year for
I don't know that I'm very personally clear about this. And if you're out there and I'm just Googling it right now. I don't know that that's clear yet. Mm-hmm. I also think that you can't move things from Bank to Sword and Shield.
Right.
So
that's the whole point of Home.
Right. So Bank is
Bank to Home.
at worst, Bank's just going to be outdated and you're never going to be able to
Yeah.
use it in the future, and maybe maybe they'll announce at some point that it's going away.
Well, I mean, it certainly will at some point. You know
Right.
what I mean?
But I don't think they've made a big announcement about it yet. To my
but it
knowledge.
is a shame that it's like more than 3 times the amount of money that bank costs
Yeah,
when
and-
it's essentially the same thing.
Right.
I mean, the webpage has some like pretty robust, good looking stuff on there. Like, I'm definitely going to download at least the free version. And I'm not even like a huge Pokemon guy.
And there's
just to be able to have a big Pokedex on your Switch would be cool.
There's
You
a
know
few
what I mean?
things you can do in home that you can't do in bank, as I
Right.
understand it, but it's not like crazy its
Yeah.
own game like some people were hoping. You know, like
Maybe some details about the premium version of Home are no. If you have a non-premium version, you can only store 30 Pokemon.
yeah,
Right, which is a very, very small amount.
That's
for
all of them,
That's
right?
for people like me.
Yeah, wait, actually, that's every Pokemon.
Yeah, we're good. We're fine.
But if
Wait,
you have
10 times is that?
a premium account, you can store 6,000.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. Holy fuck.
When you look at it that way, if you do the math, $16, how much are you talking for Pokemon there?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Does it get
it is
my
a lot.
Pokemon Blue War Turtle that I evolved when I was 6? Because if the answer is no, fuck that.
No, it does. You just have to use bank
Yeah,
in order to get
you got
it.
to put it in bank.
All
and
right,
go
fair
bank to
enough.
Home.
Yeah.
Well, that's worth all of my money.
Another funny thing is that on this chart, they don't say store Pokemon, but you deposit Pokemon
Right.
Like a bank.
like a bank.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait.
But it's home.
God damn it.
You know how you deposit your children at home?
Time to withdraw my children.
okay. So while we're recording this, which we're recording this on Tuesday evening, just as we're doing this, Byleth just joined Smash Ultimate. I just got a text from Austin saying Byleth hits hard.
So
if
I
you're
think-
out there listening and you haven't yet, you can go update your Smash Ultimate game, and if you have the DLC, play as Byleth or run into them online or whatever. If either of you, Matt and David, are furiously playing their Switches
They
right
are.
now to give us their very first impressions.
Yeah, this is
of
my
Byleth.
first impression right now. I'm going to tell you right now as I'm playing. I'm trying to play Byleth without the mic blocking the screen. Byleth feels weird. I will say right off the bat. I'm playing against like a level 3 Zero Suit Samus, and she's kicking my ass.
I'm playing against level 3 Samus.
Really? Yeah. Wow. Oh my god. We should be playing against each other. What the fuck are we doing? I just died. All right. I'm not going to podcast and play this at the same time. It's interesting so far. I was talking to some people and they were under the impression that this character does have a down B counter. I can confirm now this character has no down B counter.
And that's what he went in depth. Sakurai went in depth on the moves, and I did not see counter when I watched it.
So, ranged fighter. I don't know. I played it for like 10 seconds while we were recording.
It sounds like he's very strong, or she, or they.
I cannot refer to her as a she.
Excuse me, what?
I can't not refer to her.
Oh, you can't not.
That's what I'm saying. Sorry, I said that wrong. I always refer to her as a she, and so whenever I hear people saying he, it kind of freaks me out. I played with female Byleth
I
when
played
I
with
played the game.
male
that makes
Byleth.
sense.
So,
Yeah.
at any rate, that's out now. Maybe next week we'll give you even more impressions about that. And
Cuphead is also out.
and about that. And in further Smash Ultimate speculation, alleged leaks and rumors, a lot of people have been talking about Crash Bandicoot as being the next fighter, or one of the next fighters for sure.
Where did you hear this?
So there's a couple
I saw this in the
things,
notes.
but the biggest one is that there is somebody who has a Twitter account that correctly predicted Byleth and a couple other Smash things in their Twitter feed. Now, of course, this could be faked. Has been some people do this where they create a Twitter account and they don't follow anybody or make it very public or anything, and they make a bunch of predictions. Or like both kinds, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
this is the character, and then they delete all the ones that aren't true, and then they start following people or whatever. Or they just got some lucky guesses or whatever. But there are multiple people that have been saying this. There's also another leaker that communicated with Papagenos that said Cuphead would be in Smash and told them that Crash would be one of the next ones.
Man, if Crash is next, that should have been the 5th fighter in this pass. You know what I mean? Instead of Byleth. Like,
Well,
I'll be very happy.
I think
I'll be like, why didn't you just have like another awesome third party character that everybody wanted?
I think it's very
in this
likely
pass?
that most of the 6, the next 6, like maybe one or two of them not, but would be like, why wasn't this the last one?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Every fighter we ever get from now on will be like, why wasn't that Byleth?
Yeah.
Byleth would have been fine if it was like number 1 in pack 2. I feel like everybody would be like, oh, okay, cool, another Fire Emblem character, but the last one in pack 1,
Yeah.
I've never seen so many people be like, wait, really? I don't care about Smash at all.
It was a very
but
salty day.
It was fun to watch from the outside.
Yeah, it totally was.
If Smash Ultimate is not your fighting game, but Street Fighter is, there was very briefly a chance, and maybe there still is, that Street Fighter V was going to be coming to the Switch. EB Games Canada during EVO Japan leaked that, well, didn't really leak, but everybody thought it was a leak, that's put up on their website like pre-orders for Street Fighter V for the Switch. So everybody was like, oh, this is coming. They're going to make an announcement. But that never happened. And in fact, they later apologized, and the producer of Street Fighter said that's not happening. So either it is, and it's just they leaked it too early, or this was just a mistake, and everybody got excited for no reason. And so we were just talking about this before the podcast. Street Fighter is like a PlayStation 4, or it's not
5,
exclusive.
Sony helped with 5.
They helped with 5.
It's
They put
not
the money
on any
in.
other console.
It's on PC.
but
on
not
PC, yeah,
but not Xbox or obviously Switch.
So this isn't really like an MLB The Show situation where like their license ran out with MLB and they decided that they want to go multi-plat. Like this is like a Persona situation where like Atlas gets help from
There's
Sony, and
clearly
so that's
some
probably not
relationship.
coming to the Switch, you know. So I think I doubt that it's going to happen. It would be really cool. I'm not a huge Street Fighter guy personally, but I know it would sell like crazy. Like the Street Fighter 30th anniversary collection sold really well. The Street Fighter 2 like championship whatever thing that came out at launch for the Switch, that sold really, really well. So I think Capcom wants to do it. They're probably just like in some shadow deal with Sony that they can't get out of.
Well, that and our next couple items might kind of lead us into our topic, which is the Direct. Nintendo put out this infographic in Europe where they sent out emails showing like all the games that we know about that are coming in 2020, and like also said at the end, you know, and more. And it's looking at it, it's still kind of striking how little we know about when the first party games are coming out and how just there's only a couple,
or like what they are.
Yeah, and then like we assume there will be more. So that's got people talking about when is this Direct happening. And then there's been a rumor that Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition.
There it is. That's for me.
This is it. Is coming out in May. There was a retailer or some place. I'll pull it up to confirm where, but there's been a lot of speculation that that's going to come out on May 29th because of some Swedish or like Danish retailer. So we'll see.
Into it. That would be 1 year exactly from my surgery last year.
Oh, there you go.
Oh.
The perfect way to celebrate.
Put 120 hours into a Xenoblade game.
So all of that is just to say that, you know, people are chomping at the bit for a Direct, and we're going to take a real quick break before we kind of talk a little bit more about that and sort of the history of that, like David talked about at the top. So we'll see you in a minute.
Bye.
So we're back.
Hi.
Hello. And I think just to clarify what we're talking about today again is the sort of the path, like this moment right now. Everybody is, like I said, just ready for a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
How did we get here? You know, like not just in terms of this year, but I mean, like, why are we so excited about these advertisements?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
And like sort of talk about the history of game announcements and when Nintendo Directs came around and sort of that where technology and these announcements or advertising meet. So like it's January 28th when we're recording this. We haven't had a Nintendo Direct this year. We know, like we said, just a little bit, and people are going nuts. That's why there's so many rumors flying around. Everybody's getting antsy.
There have been rumors since like late November that like a Direct is coming.
Don't worry, it's coming any day.
So this will be sort of we'll be jumping around a little bit, but just the history of Nintendo Direct in particular. The first Nintendo Direct was in October of 2011. So we've only had Directs for like less than 9 years. And, you know, what happened before that? We'll circle back around to directs, but how were games, in particular Nintendo games and any video game, announced, and how did people find out about them? Well, obviously, there's been a lot of different mediums, and David, you pointed this out. Nintendo had like a trade show in Japan. They did.
Well, even before that,
if we want to back up even further,
I think even before that, like in the 80s, where you would mainly find video games was at CES or at trade shows like that, right? Like I know, for instance, like Tetris was discovered at like a trade show in Hungary or something like that, where it was like there was like a thing with some games and then some educational software over here and then like appliances and stuff like that. So that's kind of what games were looped into for a while, and Nintendo took part in that as well in like the early 80s.
Yes.
But then like the mid 80s, that's when they came out with like Famicom or Nintendo Space World, which was kind of like their own trade show that they ran, that they revealed so much at. Like it was a really big thing for a while. Like I think the Game Boy was revealed there, the Super Famicom, the N64, the GameCube, like the GBA. These were all things that were like revealed at Space World.
And that was from 89 until 2001, just if you're out there curious.
That's correct. And it would be in Japan, but they would fly out press to it from all over the world.
Mm-hmm. And then, in that era too, like you think 2001, that's when the internet was really taking off, around then, a little earlier than that, hit mainstream. But so even pre-internet, like and some of that, like CES and some of that, if you followed the news, you would know about that. But how did your average person find out about video games? Well, I mean, you'd go to the arcade or you'd talk to people.
I feel like it was magazines for a long time.
It's magazines. It was magazines.
It was Game Pro. It was Game Informer. Like that's how I
totally
got into that stuff.
My two were Electronic Gaming Monthly and Nintendo Power.
And Nintendo Power.
Electronic. I had a subscription.
EGM and Game Fan.
Yeah, I'd never heard of Game Fan. Was that like a zine?
Yeah,
he's an
underground video game scene.
He was seeing the first indie games.
But I definitely remember going to the arcade and seeing Cruis'n USA and Killer Instinct, and then there's a commercial for Ultra 64.
Yeah,
I was like, "What the fuck's an Ultra 64?"
Yeah.
And then it came out Nintendo 64 several months later.
Yeah, and it was like the drip feed, like mainstream stuff, and then like your niche publications was like where you would hear about things.
And I would go and hang out at Babbage's at Highland Mall here in Austin.
Dude, are you 500 years old?
I have never seen a Babbage's in my life.
I've seen a Babbage's.
I was born in 1992.
So. But it is funny to say that word.
Babbage's does sound like Babbage's back in my day.
But that's a person, right?
There's a really good Twitter where it's Nicki Minaj saying bad bitches, but with Babbage's. Really good. She says it fast enough, it sounds like Babbage's.
Anyway, sorry. You went to Babbage's.
And I remember also like, talking to my friends at school, and like me and one of my friends would make like code sheets and sell them to people.
Oh, really?
Wow.
For like the Super Nintendo games and stuff. So
That's
like,
pretty cool.
There's such a different level, and then TV advertisements were important too, right? Like that, you might not know about a game until then.
I mean, I think the thing, honestly, that made Smash so popular
that
was that commercial, the Happy Together Turtles ad, where they were all like the mascots like running through the grass. Like that was a hugely popular ad, especially for like kids like around our age back then.
I was Donkey Kong, Pikachu, Mario,
Yoshi.
And Yoshi, yeah.
They're all holding hands in like a field.
Yeah, and then they just start kicking the shit out of each other. Yeah.
That ad is the first commercial I can remember as a child. Like that every time I hear that song, I just think of Yoshi hitting. Like it's weird how much that comes back to me.
Yeah.
So all those things still happen, right? Like in-person recommendations, TV ads, browsing on stores to an extent.
Yeah, I think magazines are pretty much gone.
There's like maybe one PC Gamer magazine that still exists.
I think
they all became websites.
I think like EGM even still technically still exists. And there are like some websites that like are reviving stuff now, but they're usually like bi-monthly or like every quarter that they come out,
But then like in the internet era, obviously Nintendo and other companies have found other ways to disseminate their information, and I think that makes sense. They can skip all those intermediaries and just go right to us, and that's what the Direct is, right? And I think let's talk about that. Like I said, it started.
We skipped a big one with E3 there for a while.
Yeah, so
basically, like the Direct took the place. Eventually, ended up taking the place of Nintendo's
the press
E3
conferences.
press conference.
I guess press conference is another thing we kind of talked about with like CES and all that. Right. Trade shows press conferences are a big one. Yeah, let's talk about that, I guess. So live stage presentations where people make announcements about games, and then that would disseminate through those other media as well.
Yeah.
But pre-internet especially. And yes, like, so
we've had some
Nintendo would do live shows at E3 and make announcements there.
We've had some like really epic Nintendo press conference moments, and then we've had just some of the cringiest shit of all time from Nintendo E3.
Nintendo Music, was it?
Yeah, Nintendo Music was super cringy.
For the Wii.
The whole Wii era was really cringy for E3 press conferences. But we also got a lot of gold. You know, that's where we got My Body Is Reggie. You know, that's where we got well, actually, no, I'm thinking of Xbox now, but the guy who goes, Peggle 2! That's a different
thing.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, the whole like introduction for Reggie of like my name's Reggie, I'm about kicking ass, taking names, and we're about making games. Like that wouldn't happen in a direct, really. You know what I mean?
No.
So I look back on the Nintendo E3 press conferences pretty fondly, even though they're cringy.
Yeah, I do have rose tinted glasses about E3.
Yeah,
because like in my friend group in high school, we would look forward to E3.
Oh yeah, same.
And even friends in going through college, we would all like get in a chat room and like go on a text string and like talk about E3 as the announcements were happening.
Right.
And we have that, but just in less hype forms. So I miss like a culminating event that brings all video gamers together. If you're a PlayStation head or an Xbox head, everyone's a head. Or if you're a
box heads or station heads.
Yeah. You're a Dreamcast head.
Box heads.
There's one convention to rule them all that like is the manifestation of all the hype.
That could be dead next year too. Like,
and that's our oft discussed future episode that we will be talking about at some point is the history of E3 in general. But I just wanted to bring that up because directs came out of them stopping doing that,
and bringing that back. So they started doing directs in 2011, and in 2013 they stopped doing E3 press conferences and started doing directs at E3.
Right.
And in 2014 they started doing the Treehouse, and that's been their system since, where they have a direct at E3 and then they have this Treehouse where they show off some games and more detail.
Which is a really good way to do it, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So do we much prefer this than the live stage show, or do you miss any elements of it?
Well, it's like if you want to watch some like live Nintendo press people talking about stuff, you can watch the Treehouse for like 15 hours or however long they stream over E3. They stream all day. And so it's like if you want that, you can get it in more bite-sized, like a more niche targeted thing than it is for like investors and press people. You know what I mean? It's more for the gamer. It's more for the end consumer. And so it's a little bit more, it's more like up my alley, the Treehouse thing, as opposed to like a big wide swath.
And obviously other companies are still doing the sort of live stage presentations at E3 or at their own things like BlizzCon and stuff like that, where companies are still announcing games at these sort of live shows where they gather people together.
Mm-hmm. And like people do it at like Evo.
Yeah.
Like there would be new characters for fighting games announced at Evo.
I mean, the Game Awards or whatever.
Nintendo held a press conference for the Switch reveal. You know what I mean? Like back in 2016.
Oh, right. They totally
It was
did,
or was that 2015? When did the Switch launch?
Johnson 17, so it was 16.
March 2017.
Yeah. So they're not like opposed to it. It's just not something they want to like shell out the big bucks for at E3.
So then bringing it back to the direct, or did you have something you want
I
to say?
think it's just like the idea of these like pre-taped things, the directs and everything, like they just have more control over it. And like as we go deeper into this, I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but it's like those live shows, you see things go wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And I remember through the E3 era of live press conferences, watching those online and being like, ooh, this is awkward.
And and an audience might not react how you want them to.
Right.
Like when you announce Wii Music or
Totally.
whatever.
Peggle 2!
Watch any Ubisoft conference ever.
So, like we said, in 2011, they switched to this direct format, which is, if you're listening to this, you probably know what it is, but it's like a group of announcements all at once, with, new games and games we've known a little bit about, with going into more detail. And it's changed over the last 8.5, 9 years. It's tightened up a little bit. They've had varying amounts of them in different years. And I feel like they've found a pretty good flow. And I think we all agree it's a pretty good system. But like, why does that work? Or do we have any thoughts? Let's dig into or you got something?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, just about like when the directs started, it was really an Iwata thing, right? Like, Iwata was huge on transparency and being like honest with customers and being like a face of, he didn't want to be necessarily the face of Nintendo, but he was like, hey, I'm going to be the CEO. I want to like show people that like I'm a dude and I'm a gamer and I'm about this stuff. So he did the directs, and that was like when they're called directs because he would say, I am doing this directly to you. Yeah. And he would do like the little hand thing, you know what I mean? And like, and that became its own meme, you know what I mean? But then he would do that. He also did Iwata Asks. Do you guys remember those?
Those were amazing.
Yeah. We would just sit down with like the first party developers of these Nintendo games and just give like big, long backstory, like conversations about the games. And so like, I think this was really his brainchild. Mm-hmm. And I think that it wouldn't be necessarily what it is right now if it weren't for him. That having been said, I think they're a lot more lean now, like you were talking about, like the way that they go right now, they've gotten them down to like a fucking science. You know what I mean? They're less like, hey, we're having a conversation with our customers, and now they're just like, here's all the news you need to know. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I think they've also, there were some years where they had like a ton of them. Mm-hmm. And so some of them didn't have as many exciting announcements, and it seems like they've kind of settled into, there's no pattern obviously because we're all stressing about when this one's going to happen, which gives some credit to Matt. I feel like in our predictions episode you're like, I think it's going to happen in February, and David and I were like, no way.
Fucking way.
It's always in January.
They're not going to fuck me 2 years in a row, Matt.
Yes, they are.
But this is now the Matt Stoner Nintendo Switch podcast, where we never talk about directs
or Switch Pro rumors.
But I think, also I was reading some article about the early days. I mean, I think YouTube is just bigger now. I think people watch more content on the internet now.
Streaming, live broadcast streams are huge now.
I was reading some article from like 2015 kind of analyzing early directs and comparing them, and they're talking about the numbers of viewers of like, in the several hundred thousands. And I'm like, now I just went and looked. The last one had, over almost 2.5 million views. And that's just on the Nintendo YouTube because, tons of people mirror it.
Or talk over it. That's how I watch my directs.
It's also on Twitch.
Right. And there's all this people that stream it and people watch them. So that's obviously it's a lot more than that because that's just the American one too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yada yada. So I kind of am curious about like why it's basically just advertisements, but this is really taken off. Like people refer to other things as directs now. You know what I mean? Like that they've become the Kleenex of like video game announcements.
Well, like PlayStation,
Sony's doing a direct.
State of
or even things Nintendo doesn't call directs when they have a presentation. People are like, oh, is it the Smash Showcase Direct or the Indie Direct or whatever. So clearly it has worked. Is it because it's gotten so lean and powerful? Is it because they have enough content that most gamers are satisfied with something and excited about something? They've just done a good job also of maybe building up excitement.
That's what I would say. Mm-hmm. I would say it's more about withholding information and choosing a time to release it than it is like, oh, here's just an ad. It's not really just an ad because it's like for instance, like we don't know what the lineup is going to be for this year. Nintendo didn't used to always be like that. Like we would hear about games years in advance.
Oh, totally.
And that's what you were talking about with Control, right? They can control not just control the content, but
control the game. I'm like, wait.
That game's coming to the Switch. You heard, right?
They can control the content, but they can control when we hear about it. And that's why people are so excited right now.
Right.
And then going crazy because we want to know what we're going to be playing this fall or like what the big hit game of this year is, and I expect
we know what movies are coming out in the fall. We know when Star Wars movies are coming out 2 years before they come out. Right. Video games are like, we're not going to fucking tell you till 6 months before it comes out.
That's so true,
and that's new.
We don't that's very new. Though I even feel like video game industry has always been like very secretive. They like when a studio is working on a new X-Men movie, they're like, "Oh, we're working on a new X-Men."
Well, it's because they're out shooting in fucking Chicago or whatever, where it's like a lot easier to hide like a little office full of programmers.
Yeah, totally, and that's
sign
like,
NDAs.
But it's backfired on the video game industry when they announce games too soon, and they either get delayed
Where's Bayonetta 3 or whatever.
Or never come out and get canceled because then people lose their excitement. So
totally.
Yeah.
This also coincides.
Or like a Final Fantasy versus 14, whatever that one was, like 10 years development.
Versus 13, which became 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, Final Fantasy 7 remake.
Yeah, that's
we saw that for the first time as a tech demo, like for the PS4 PS3, I think, originally. Like, way back in the day.
Oh, they did have that second one.
Yeah. It was like right before the PS3 came out. They were like, this is what it can do. And then, 15 years later or whatever.
And Nintendo has gotten really good about not announcing games too soon, though they've obviously had a few missteps with like Metroid Prime 4.
We don't talk about that
and
because they're our neighbors.
But you think about it's that weird give and take because gamers were really excited about, say, like the next Elder Scrolls game or whatever. And
that got announced so far in advance.
Yeah, and that just got announced a couple years ago.
But they announced that, but this isn't coming till 2024 or some shit like that.
That and like Starforge or whatever.
Starfield.
People want to know it, and some companies I feel like give in to that.
I think some of it is just like, we're working on it, leave us alone.
Yeah,
exactly. Like that's with Elder Scrolls specifically. Like,
right.
Yeah, I mean, somehow like CD Projekt Red has gotten away with that with Cyberpunk 2077.
That's true. People are still hyped for that.
They had Keanu fucking Reeves. They could get away with anything.
But like, like Black Mesa, like the fan mod, like that's been in development for like 15 years and it's still not done. It's just like, dude, come on. Like, I think you're right. I think basically what all of this is to say, Nintendo has learned that just hold your information close to your chest, reveal it all at once. People are going to go ape shit, and it's all the free marketing you would ever need is the community talking amongst themselves.
And give that, like, have that crazy shit in the middle of it, like that showcase they had. I don't even remember. My time means nothing to me anymore. Where they were like, "Oh, here's Deadly Premonitions 2."
Right?
Yeah.
Just like out of fucking nowhere, and you're like, "What?" And like those little things for a specific group of people. Like some people won't give a shit about that, but for me, I'm like, "Oh, one of the greatest games of all time. That's terrible to play. Is getting a sequel it doesn't deserve, but I'm incredibly excited for."
So you're a big DP stan, huh?
I love DP.
Yeah.
But also like it's just like Nintendo also weirdly will showcase stuff that isn't theirs in a way that's for people for very niche things. Like, you'll get a full Smash Direct, but you also get Deadly Premonitions or like, oh, hey, fucking Cuphead's coming to the Switch.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we don't know about stuff makes surprises that much better, and leaks are rarer for Directs, it feels like, in a way that like a press conference show, you hear about everything before E3 now.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
I love DP2, by the way.
And there's also now these indie world presentations that they've been doing since the Switch. And I think that's gotten a lot of, it's what's good for the industry. It's like a lot of smaller games that people might not hear about get some, visibility.
Yeah.
And people get excited about them.
I mean, Goose Game was in an Indies Direct, and then it became a huge smash hit.
Yeah.
I think that was only because of the hype that built from that Indies
Totally.
presentation.
If that hadn't happened, I don't
Wait for Skatebird.
Yeah. Skatebird could have the same effect.
Dude, it's ollieing straight to my heart.
I'll be getting Skatebird day one. I'm excited about that game.
And it's, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we were on the back show floor just talking to developers, and many people were like, yeah, we're an indie development firm and we're making games and we're trying to get in touch with Nintendo so we can be on the Indie Direct.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like, I feel like you have to, I wonder how you get into a Direct.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they reach out to you. You know what I mean? Because it's like, you can't just like be like, can I be on a Direct, please?
Right.
Like if you're some nobody developer, there's like, 100 games came out on Switch already in January, like there's a fuck ton of indies. So it's like, how do you get the pick?
It's got to be such a big thing for them.
I think it's got to be all like politics, like who the networking that you can do, like,
GDC
having a
must
good
be
publisher.
huge.
And a good game too.
But I think that's the point of like, there is like Nintendo Directs are like in this echelon of marketing where you're trying to market your specific game. And people seek that out and people respect Nintendo. But that, if you're trying to market your game on the Direct, it feels different from something like being on the cover of Game Informer.
Right. Yeah.
You know
it's
what
kind
I
of like
mean?
a modern version of that.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's like, it's a big deal because it's coming from a respectful company that's like very private.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So also, I think it's worth mentioning that, like we talked about this a little bit, but PlayStation and Xbox have both copied this format and now have them, and people call them Directs.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it's working, right? And other people are now trying to emulate it, but they haven't quite hit the same level of it yet.
Man, imagine if Valve made enough games to do a Valve Direct.
Steam Direct.
That would be kind of a utopia, right?
I mean, considering Valve in Q4 of this first fiscal year, they sold like 175,000 Valve Index.
Yeah.
That's $1,000 VR headsets that they sold 175,000.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. All I'm saying is they should make
Just
games
for one
again.
one Valve game.
They are, apparently.
But yeah, well.
We'll see if it
So-
continues.
To just kind of maybe wind us up here, like the ability of them to use the internet and this technology and leverage it, and YouTube and streaming and all that is what has made the Nintendo Direct so effective and more people on it. What do you think the future is for either just video game announcements or directs? Do you think we'll have them for a lot longer, or we probably can't predict the future? But any thoughts about?
I think
This format's here to stay, or
like the format of like marketing in general, or like just like direct?
any way to make an announcement. Obviously we can't predict the future, but is this sort of
we can,
grouping
yeah.
it all together in one thing, or do you think they'll have? Do you think with the rise, because now we see a lot of stuff get announced on Twitter too, or like the day of, like that Witcher game, like people are holding things and
I
then
love
just
when
being like,
things
it's
drop
here.
same day.
Yeah, and
I mean,
people
Twitter,
love it.
like Twitter does change a lot, right? Like, I mean, like Nintendo, a lot of stuff that I would think they would hold for a direct, they drop
Yeah.
on Twitter.
Mhm.
I think it's like I said, it's a balance. It's like you kind of pick your battles there, like what you want to build up hype for, what you want to hold close to your chest, and what you want to just put out there. I think that like people like those drops. I think if there's only going to be 4 directs a year, if that was the only time Nintendo ever announced anything, that would be terrible for business, I think. You know what I mean? But as far as what you were saying about what the future of Nintendo's kind of distribution of information platform is, I think that you can make a parallel here between Nintendo and then Microsoft and Sony. How you said that Microsoft and Sony have kind of copied the Nintendo model. That's something that Microsoft and Sony have been doing since they came onto the market. Like Nintendo started motion controllers, and then Xbox did the Kinect, and PlayStation did the Move. They both followed suit. Nintendo made the D-pad. Every controller has a D-pad. Everybody's been following that. They made the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance. They made the PlayStation Portable. So it's like everybody's been copying Nintendo throughout the entirety of Nintendo's career. You know what I mean? And like the entire time that they've been a business. And I think that also applies here. And in the same way that like Nintendo isn't comfortable resting on their laurels as far as innovation is concerned in the game space, when they, were like at the forefront of motion controls, they didn't just keep motion controls necessarily for every single console and have that be the focus of every console. They innovated again. From then we had the tablet controller, and then that evolved into the Switch, which is this portable hybrid, which I'm sure we're going to be seeing something from Xbox and PlayStation that is some sort of hybrid in the future. I bet they're going to be following
we
that
got that
model because
Alienware UFO.
I mean,
thing.
yeah, you've already got
Fucking really
copycats.
want that thing.
So all of this is to say that, like, yes, I think that the direct platform is here to stay, but at the same time, I can see them innovating. I don't think that they like to just do the same thing over and over again. In the same way that they had Space World and then E3 and then Directs, I think we will eventually have something else. And whenever they do that, PlayStation and Xbox are just going to copy that as well.
Nintendo TikTok.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they'll just like fucking have it where you hold the Joy-Cons in your hands and then it vibrates, and so you feel it in
I
your
was
brain.
like wondering if like one future
doesn't
thing
happen for you?
could be in game. And you hear that. I think when we were at that panel at PAX, they were talking about sort of the future being like, you hear about a game, you can play that game. You know
Right.
what I mean? So like if some announcements will come to you through the way that you're playing games too, and I don't know what that is, but that's
the
one sort of
person,
future thing.
the one company that kind of like has a foot in that game of new, interesting ways to market games, but have fumbled it incredibly is Google. Right, with Stadia. Like, Stadia is a fucking mess right now.
Oh, they haven't had a new game announcement in like 45 days.
They
Yeah,
just
and it's only been
announced
out
something
for
new.
like 65 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like Stadia's got issues. But that having been said, like, Google is trying to innovate. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, they were trying to innovate so hard that they scared Xbox into making a competitor way better. And
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, hell
now
yeah.
Xbox, what's their thing?
xCloud?
xCloud.
xCloud, yeah.
xCloud's killing it right now in the beta program as far as everything that I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, I think that we could look to people like Google that maybe don't have enough experience, but have these lofty ambitions for what we might see for the future. So like what they do with like streaming, where you're watching somebody play on YouTube and then you can just like hop in, not to say that they've implemented that yet, but that's part of their
future,
promises.
yeah.
I could see something like that happening with Nintendo for
Totally.
sure.
I mean, Google has failed to Nintendo Switch. The first advertisement they had for that, the direct that like showed how it worked, was incredibly clear that I could basketball on a rooftop with my friends at a party. But like functionally, you still can do that.
Yeah.
While the one ad I've ever seen for Stadia doesn't tell you shit.
Yeah, it's
about
like
what's
Reggie Watts. Like,
it's Reggie Watts
in
and
a
like,
futuristic car.
we saw that during the Game Awards. And we're like, what the fuck is this? Until it was a Stadia ad.
But like Google did their own direct. God, we got to stop calling these directs. But Google, when they had a press conference to announce Stadia, and they laid everything out really clearly there.
They did.
They just like didn't follow through with future marketing.
No,
You know
not
what
at
I
all.
mean? But anyway, I don't think the format is going anywhere anytime soon. But I'm excited to see what's next.
But I think what you're leaning towards is, David, you started to talk about like the format of a direct, and the Nintendo Directs have mostly been a little bit of hardware, but all about the games. And then when Microsoft did the Xbox One and they announced all the TV stuff, there was a huge backlash about like, I don't give a shit about my TV functionality. You know, it's a small number of people who do care about that functionality, but overall, people just want to see the games so they can play the games. And when can they play the games?
That's a really good point.
That's what Nintendo has done really well is we're going to create this, 25-minute marketing strategy, which is show the gamers games they want to fucking play.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's a really good point because every time in 2019, and there were a few in 2019, where we saw them release new innovative hardware, it was always outside of a direct. You know, like Labo was its own announcement.
they know their audience.
Ring
a little
Fit
bit.
was its own announcement.
Right.
Like
That was the weirdest
the
fucking video.
more
Yeah.
casual stuff or kiddie stuff or whatever, it goes in separately. And we haven't said this, but we've said it before. The Nintendo really knows how to open and close a direct, right? Like they save the things, they save enough stuff so that every time they have a direct, they can generally open and close strong, and that leaves you with a really good impression.
I think that's what State of Play really lacks sometimes.
Yeah.
is They have like The Last of Us 2 was a big part of the last State of Play. Sony's Direct. There you go. That's for you, David. But like, I don't remember anything else from that.
Well, they just keep kind of fumbling with VR stuff. Like Sony should have VR announcements like Nintendo does Labo and Ring Fit
I totally
separately,
agree with that.
And
Yeah.
then it just focus on games. I think the main problem right now is that Sony started doing State of Plays towards the end of the PS4's life.
Yeah.
And they've been holding stuff close to the chest with the PS5.
Yeah.
You know, they'll let little stuff trickle out through Mark Cerny or whatever, doing an interview with Wired or whatever. But it's like, we have yet to see that big PlayStation announcement. Now, that having been said, I could see that happening in like the next week. I think that we'll probably get an announcement from them in February. But yeah, I think that it would behoove them to focus more on the games this upcoming console generation.
Yeah, just like thinking about the way that I feel because I own all three consoles, but like the Microsoft one, Sony one, and Nintendo one, they're all different. Especially with the last Microsoft one, then when they announced the Series X, it's like Senua's Sacrifice, and it's like very gritty and it's very pretty, but it doesn't like tell me the joy and the fun of playing a game that the
that's
Nintendo
true.
Direct does. Like I'm really impressed by the tech of the new Xbox Series X.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm probably gonna fucking get one because I'm a Halo fanatic. Yet the Nintendo Directs are always joyful.
That's true
you won't,
too.
You
Like,
won't need to get an Xbox Series X if you want to play the new Halo because
It will be on the Xbox One.
There's going to be no exclusive games for the Series X for 2 years, apparently.
Okay.
we need to move on, but that's really interesting too because we talked about early on they had maybe too much jokey stuff in directs or whatever, and they've tightened it up, but they still have a nice like Koizumi hosting that gives you a little bit of joy. You know what I mean? Like where's the State of Play? It's just like, next it's going to be this game.
You have to have at least one cheery Japanese man in every direct. That's my thought.
The wrong Bowser when Doug Bowser comes out. Like,
exactly.
just have something that tells you like we're in on the joke.
Yeah.
That's the puppets. That's everything else. Like Nintendo enjoys joy.
Yeah, I'd love to see more Doug Bowser in directs. I will
He's
say
good.
that. Before we move on to what we've been playing, if you don't mind, can we maybe say like one standout direct moment from each of us? Can you guys think of one off the cuff?
Off the cuff.
Yeah.
Deadly Premonitions 2.
Yeah, that would be yours.
It fucking blew my mind. I've
Yeah.
only watched Direct since I got a Switch, but watching them, like I watched other people watch it, and I never played Deadly Premonitions. I watched people play Deadly Premonitions because I did not have that kind of time in my life at the time. And then they watched the people play it, go literally what the fuck as I went what the fuck was
Yeah.
one of those moments no, this is cool that this gets to exist because Swery is really fucking cool.
Yeah. I'm into it.
I was pretty excited when they opened with Super Mario Maker 2 last
That was so
Last
goddamn
year.
hype.
Yeah.
Also, I think it was E3 when they announced there would be more last year, more Smash Fighters. That got me maybe the most excited out of that direct. Like I just remember like, oh, there's gonna be more. You know?
Yeah.
Those are a couple of recent ones.
Man, I don't know. What do you think? What do you got?
Well, I mean, I would say, I mean, there have been multiple directs where they showed off Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was an off-delayed game. That's kind of breaking their rule, right? But I don't think that they expected development to go on for that long, and I think they also didn't expect for the Wii U to fail so badly, which is why they really pushed it back.
First time I saw that game was definitely impressive.
Yeah. The one where, and it might have even been like a Game Awards thing where they kind of had the green screen behind them and it turned into this big thing. Either way, that was a huge one. For me, the one in recent memory that I can think of, and I posited this question, I didn't really think of a good answer, but the most recent one that I can think of is that E3 Direct where they just focused on Smash for like 35 minutes. It was like a lot of people were
like
pissed.
the patch notes for Smash, or like all the slight changes.
Mike is pointing to himself.
I hated it. I was like,
Yeah.
is there nothing else here?
Well, it wasn't for you, and that's
No,
okay.
it wasn't. That's fine. I totally get it.
But I totally understand people that were pissed off about it. But for me, as a guy who at that point anyway, I was at my ultimate, pun not intended, hype for Smash. And then it just going on and on and on and showing every single little thing and then ending with the release date. That was like, and that's when I was watching Etika on YouTube all the time.
Yeah.
Dude, rest in fucking peace, Etika. I actually went to his old Twitter today. I really missed that guy. But I would watch him stream Nintendo Directs and like just seeing the absolute joy from that man as he was watching it. And then like me being matched on his hype level. Like, yeah, that I'll never forget that. What about you, Matt?
I think like when the Nintendo Switch was announced, the one that I remember the most was when the Switch was announced in like October. What do we say? Like
2016 or something.
2016.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that invitation online, and I remember scheduling time with my girlfriend. It was like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch this Nintendo presentation, and that's outside of E3.
Yeah.
We're going to get a new hardware announced.
Yeah.
Which is normally hardware is announced at E3.
Right.
And things have changed even in the past couple of years. But I remember being excited and confused. But like, we're going to get new fucking Nintendo hardware, and that's hype as shit.
Yeah. Well, R.I.P. Etika, but also R.I.P. Iwata. You did great with the directs. Whenever I see something that Iwata came up with, like still going strong, it's like, dude, this dude's legacy will never die. Yeah, so good for him.
All right. Well, we should take another quick break, and then we'll move on to what we've been playing.
Cheers, mate.
All right, and we're back, and we're going to be talking about what we've been playing this week. Who's excited and wants to go first?
I'll go first. Okay.
Okay.
So I've been playing a few games this week. I've been playing a game that I can't really talk about right now, but we will be able to talk about next week. So that's exciting. A little bit of mystery for you guys. Make sure you listen to that episode.
It's a good game.
It's a good game. You might be able to guess what it is. And then I finally fired up the original ukulele that I bought over Christmas break, which I'd never played the original ukulele. I haven't gotten too far in it, but it's really fun, y'all. It's a great game. Like, I don't
That's
know, it
the
got
3D one?
Yeah, the like Banjo-Kazooie style game, and it's like you know, it got a bunch of shit because it's like not Banjo-Kazooie, and people just wanted Banjo-Kazooie, and anything that isn't going to live up to their standards. But it's fun. It's definitely worth it. I got it on sale for like $7.50 or something like that. It was
worth it.
Definitely worth my $7.50.
way worth it.
I've been really enjoying that. Obviously, been playing some Tetris 99. And not as much, though, since that tournament, which we haven't really talked about. Like, I mean, we brought it up briefly, but I did win 4th place at that Tetris 99 tournament.
It was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Watching David play.
It's one of the most intense moments of my entire life.
There was a lot of intense people at the tournament.
Yeah.
That is
that David was matched up
unsurprising.
against.
Yeah, it was like everybody, like Tetris 99 is a stressful game. And so like playing it in a tournament setting where like you usually play it like in your bed at home or like on your TV and suddenly you're surrounded by other people that you have no idea how good they are. Like we were all intense. Like after every round, people would like have to like get up and walk around and shake it off. And like, I like shook the hand of the dude who won at the end and he was like trembling. You know, like, it was like we were like, my heart was racing probably more than when I've worked out like recently.
And then you fell flat on your face afterwards.
Yeah,
It's a great photo.
I walked into that room with so much energy. I was like, yo, I'm going to hype up David. He's going to be playing. There's going to be people in there. They're going to be hyped. Their friends are going to be supporting them. And I walk in there, it's silent.
Yeah, well, it was just a bunch of people sitting at tables with their Switches in their hands.
Just really intense.
Well, yeah, because I was there the whole time, and Matt came in about halfway.
Yeah.
And I was like, David's doing really well.
I was like whispering.
Yeah.
It's like a golf clap.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
So
It was
anyway, I didn't expect to actually talk about that right now, but that was a really, really awesome experience. And if you are any good at that game and you find about tournament going on, I really recommend you join. The other game that I have been playing, I fired up Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
And, tell me more about that.
Well, I played it like at a friend's house, but I haven't really owned a copy until now. I'm just so totally lost and terrible. I'm like terrible at fighting games, and it's like I just like jam buttons and like mash stuff and don't really know what I'm doing. And then also, as soon as you fire up the game, it's like very clear that the game's been out for like a year and a half or something at this point, because it's just like all these things like unlocked and updated that like have been coming out over time.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you're this little chibi guy like running around the overworld map. Like I couldn't find like where the options menu was for a long time.
Yeah,
So you
that
have to,
game's
like,
a little weird with that.
move your character to it. So I was very confused, but I'm going to try to keep sticking with it a little bit. I imagine since it's been on sale so much recently that the online has been getting a little bit better on the Switch. So I'm hoping to get good enough to be able to play online, but
Yeah,
I will say my first impression of Dragon Ball Fighter Z is completely overwhelmed.
who are you maining?
Oh, I don't fucking know.
Which Goku?
I started as Frieza. I started playing
Okay.
a lot with Frieza. I've been enjoying Trunks as well. He's been pretty fun.
Trunks-san.
And then obviously I've been playing some with Goku, and I like Goku a lot. But I think so far I've been doing the best with Frieza.
It's pretty good.
What about y'all? What are y'all playing?
I'll go next because the game I've been playing is Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
Hey, two generations of dragons.
Love those dragons. Good, riding them, rocking them. I'm about 20 hours into Kakarot, and I'm just getting the fighting system down.
Just 20 hours in, you know.
Just 20 hours in.
Small in time.
Sounds like Xenoblade.
know,
yeah.
I was smashing buttons because I was having a good time flying around, picking up fruit with my friend Krillin. But now I got the fighting system down, and I'm able to like defeat enemies with like up to 10 or 15 levels above me.
Oh, okay, cool.
Wow,
Yeah,
shit.
so it's
Cool.
it's more like a fighting game, like a Xenoverse or like a Street Fighter at this point. Because
With kind of open world elements, kind of tying it all together.
Yeah, and Mike, you and I were talking about
Yes.
it because you're a Dragon Ball fan.
I love Dragon Ball.
I don't think it's a $60 game.
Yeah, it does not look like everything I've heard.
$60 game if you're a Dragon Ball fan, but if you're an average Dragon Ball fan,
Wait a while.
maybe
It will go on
it's
sale. Those Xenoverse games get cheap quick.
It's probably a $40 game.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I kind of like Dragon Ball, it's probably a $20 game for you.
Yeah. I can see that going on sale pretty quick. I wish that, because it was really hyped up as like the de facto Dragon Ball Z
Yeah.
experience, and it seems like that's not quite it.
Yeah, there's little things missing, like if you want to like transform into Super Saiyan and like fly around, but you can't do that. Like simple like palette swaps, like model swaps that you want to do.
Yeah.
I think you could do in a game to like explore, to feel like you're playing these characters, but you can't do.
Right. I hear it's kind of weirdly censored as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, they show like Master Roshi looking at like porn, and like they say panties a lot.
Okay. I just
Master
heard
Roshi
that, I just
loves
heard that you like
panties.
don't see Frieza get like cut up.
Lame.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
I think you do see that.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
and you
man.
see like
I'll cut this out of the episode.
the special
Just also you can watch DBZ Kai and get all the Frieza death you want.
guys. I love Dragon Ball so much.
Yeah.
So
I used to read those
fucking
mangas.
much.
Yeah.
I read Dragon Ball Super manga, and I have a text thread about Dragon Ball, and I'm in Dragon Ball Facebook groups.
Rad.
Fuck y'all, I love that shit.
Dude, make a Dragon
Ball's
Heads
head.
Facebook group. Yeah.
Done.
Ball heads. What about you, Patrick?
Follow that up, Patrick.
Okay, I'll go next. I beat Child of Light, which I've been
Ooh,
playing
nice.
on the Switch.
Still just a so-so game?
Yeah, I think so. I think I finally came around at the end to how to play this game. Like the RPG battle type. I finally like it clicked for me, but it sucks when that happens at the end of a game, because then you're like, especially a game that you're not like excited about replaying. I think the two things I didn't like, or there's a few things I didn't like about this game, but what was sold as like a platformer meets RPG, but the platforming in this game is just stupid. Like, I
Right.
feel like it'd be cool if there was a platformer RPG where the platforming was challenging and
It's
interesting.
just a little too basic.
It's just
Yeah.
you can fly, and so you don't ever have any platforming problems,
Right.
really. And there's some puzzly stuff, but it's all repetitive. And and then it just took me a long time for the battle system to click. And then I wish there was a little bit more going on with some of the side characters and like maybe kind of teaching you the mechanics of the game, which I finally figured out at the end of like swapping in characters that can do buffs and debuffs. And I'm like, oh, this makes a lot of sense now, but
Sure.
I'm on the final boss. So
Yeah.
like,
You're not
whatever.
gonna like go back and
Yeah.
play that again. Yeah.
So I get why people like it, but it's not like for me. And then, well, let me say this: I bought on PC A Short Hike, and I played and beat that.
Oh, okay, cool.
So A Short Hike, I'd heard about this game a few places, and then while we were at PAX, somebody was talking about it again more, and then I got a notification that it was on sale on Steam. So it's already only like $7.
Yeah,
But I went ahead and bought it for like $6.
What's a short hike?
Man, I love this game.
Yeah. I
And
heard
coming off of a
amazing things
few
about
games
this.
that I like was middling on, it was even better.
It's like story focused.
It's
right?
A Short Hike, and here's my pitch for it. Right, it's Animal Crossing aesthetic meets the climbing and gliding mechanics from Breath of the Wild
Awesome.
meets like a walking simulator.
Yeah.
So like the whole premise of the game is you're a bird named Claire who is camping with her aunt and needs to make a phone call or receive a phone call, and there's no self-service there, so she has to climb up to the peak, and that's it.
To get cell service.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's just lots of other animals you can run into and do little side quests or not. And you can kind of like level up your climbing and gliding mechanics. The movement in the game is so great because you're a bird, you can like soar and it's just like I read some Hard Times, the Onion like article.
Yeah,
It's like,
Yeah.
like game reviewers overuse the phrase oozing with charm, but this game's oozing with charm. Like if there's another way to say that,
This game
like,
makes you feel like Spider-Man.
Fucking A, it does.
so I'm a big fan of this game. I recommend it. It's only $7 on Steam. It would be a great game on the Switch because it's got like a really pixelated graphics.
I bet it
really
will
simple
come to the
controls.
Switch.
It sounds like
It's
a Switch
still pretty
game.
new, right?
Yeah, it came out the fall, I believe, of
Yeah.
last year.
I bet it'll come
it's
to-
Humble is the publisher. I don't know.
Really? Huh.
I don't know, like if they'll put it on consoles or not.
A lot
They
of
should.
humble games show up on
Do
like
they?
Slay the Spire is a humble game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hopefully it comes to Switch for those of you that don't have another way to play it, but it's a great game.
Awesome.
I mean, it would really make sense on Switch. And I've been playing Rayman Legends. That's my new Switch game.
Dude,
hell yeah.
Rayman Legends is amazing.
That game rocks.
Yeah. That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite games, honestly.
I bought it a long time ago, and coming off of that Child of Light thing too, I'm like, this is what like I'm playing a really great platformer.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
it's
Like,
the same engine.
it is Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like why
It's the
didn't they
Ubi
make
Arts
a
engine.
really cool
Yeah.
platforming, and then you run into somebody and you get into a RPG battle?
See, you should have played Rayman Legends first and then played Child of Light.
Yeah.
That's the way it was intended to be. Yeah.
But that's a really fun game, and I'm enjoying that.
Oh, it's
so.
wonderful. What about you, Michael?
So I'm in graduate school, so my time has been completely sucked away.
Yeah.
Starting last week, but I'm playing 3 things specifically. One, I'm doing the Ace Attorney trilogy.
Hell yeah, I love that game.
I was like, I want something that's like a book.
Yeah.
Where I get to accuse people of crimes.
Yeah.
And that game's great. I'm still in the first game and in like the 3rd episode, so I'm like solving a murder
Oh,
on
yeah.
a
It
television
gets so
studio.
much better.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I love that one though.
Oh, it's really cool. And like I was sitting there being like, oh, this is fun, stimulating. But it's kind of just like a nice little read. They have really nice stopping points. So like you play for like a half hour and it's like, do you want to save and wait for later? And you remember like,
nice.
oh, this is made for GBA and then
Right.
eventually DS.
It's like
and
the
like
next day. Or
the next day.
whatever.
It's perfect. It's a great little game for grad school because I can do it before bed, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, I just walk through this. It's a nice little thing. I've been playing the 2 Doom and Doom 2, original Doom and Doom 2 on the Switch.
Yeah. We played some Doom at our hotel room over
That's
PAX.
right.
It's so good. The updates they put in there work great. That game is definitely worth the $5. Both of them are, and just playing Doom 2 is great. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to go back to Doom 2016 before Doom Eternal because I am incredibly hyped for Doom Eternal.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Doom 2016 is one of my favorite games of the last decade.
Right.
And it's just a very satisfying thing. So I think I'm going to go back and play that one.
Man,
at some
yeah,
time.
they did a great job with those Doom ports for Switch.
They fucked them up and then immediately fixed them.
yeah. And Panic Button did Doom 3 too. I would recommend that.
I'm
port as
going to
well.
check out Doom 3. That game is one of those games that scared me as a child. So
Yeah,
going back
it
to
is
it's just
scary.
like, I don't know what to do. Oh, they're coming out of all the closets. But I do want to check that out.
We were playing Doom co-op, and David, you learned that you should not play Doom with me.
Yeah,
With you?
Yeah.
Matt
Oh,
is
yeah,
like,
because you kept.
won't let us leave a level. He'll keep
Yeah,
shutting
you
the
just
door.
camp in the last area. We were playing co-op, which I didn't even know you could do. I thought it was only deathmatch. And then, like, we were playing co-op, and you just wouldn't let me in the last door. I just had to shoot your feet until you died.
Yeah.
To get into the.
They were trying to
Also, don't ever play with Patrick because Patrick has no idea how to play Doom. Apparently,
Man, Doom was like one of the first games I played on PC, but playing it again, I was like, this is so familiar, but
You
I
just
have
got, like, so
nowhere
lost.
to go.
Oh,
I do
yeah,
not,
that sounds
I do
about
not
right.
know where to go.
It is hard to play because all the textures are flat, and it's like really hard to navigate.
Oh, it's so fucking hard to
well,
navigate.
the map is your friend.
Right. I guess nothing could stack on anything else.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
The map is laid out continuously.
Exactly.
That would have helped.
Oh yeah, the map button is X, by the way.
Yes.
It was weird because it's like, man, I know
So
I was good
we
at
kinda
this in the
hijacked,
past.
but
No, you're totally fine.
What was your
That's-
last game?
That's about all I've been doing right now. Just
Okay.
those Ace Attorney. I'm trying to think. I beat Control over
Nice.
winter break, and I can't think of anything else I've been playing. It's been all quiet on the Western Front.
Well,
since we
hey,
started.
get that degree, dude.
Yeah.
December. Fucking hey, God, I hope it's December.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, that's
and
not
then,
too far
and
away.
then I'm gonna go look for you for a job, Matt. I'm just gonna be you hire me.
Let me know.
God damn it.
Matt owns his own fledgling restaurant
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
that only hires grad students.
Perfect. Do you guys have health
awesome.
insurance?
Well, I think that does it for the show. Thank you so much for being on, Mike.
Thank you for having me on.
What a
This is
fantastic talk
A
we
ton
had.
of fun.
You had a good time.
Oh
That's
yeah,
good.
any reason to talk about video games?
Very good.
Obviously, we didn't get to Disney Tsum Tsum Festival. Sorry about that.
we'll
damn
get
it.
to that next week.
Thank
Yeah.
you to Corduroy for doing the music. Thanks for listening. Like we said at the beginning, leave us a review or send us a message if you have any thoughts about Nintendo Directs or video game announcements. We'd love to hear from you. We'll talk about it on the show.
Or any other random question you
yeah,
might have.
that's
We'll address
true.
it on the show.
Anything.
Nintendo question episode ideas. We're always thinking some collaboration with our fans and listeners.
Yeah.
That's how I got on here.
That's right. Yeah.
If you want to find me personally on the internet, I am PDYX
You
most
can
places.
find me on Twitter, Matthew MATHYOU.
I am at Monolith Fiji everywhere on the internet. What about you, Mike?
You can find me on Instagram at EELCAV, EELCAV.
Very good.
Nice.
That'll do it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. I think this was a great one. I think this was a
This
great
was a good
episode.
one.
And it's episode 50.
Episode 50. We should say something. It's been 50 episodes. So awesome
Yeah.
that we still have like a good listenership and people seem to be engaged in what we're doing.
And a
if
fun Facebook group you
and a
should join for sure. Today proved that.
a really fun Facebook group. And so if you've been listening for 50 episodes or 10 episodes or this is your first one, thank you so much for listening to Super Switch Headz. We really started doing this just to have some fun and just talk about video games. And it's really turned into something really nice. And, we get to do interviews now. We get to go to events. So it's like really nice to have this outlet and to have you guys listening to our show. So I really appreciate that from the bottom of our heart. We'll be doing another 50 of these at least. Matt-
These. I'm never going to stop until I die.
There you go. That's what
50
I'm
more
talking about.
Switch Pro episodes.
Matt bought the house we record in, so that's not going anywhere. So, so anyway, just want to say thank you so much for listening. We're gonna have a great episode for you next week. Hopefully, it's on a direct. And other than that, we love you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.